Winter light leaks through thin white curtains. Cold hands rest on your faded quilt. Cream and blue flowers blur and swim. Our years fold tight in these walls. You close one last box without looking up. I breathe slow, every breath feels borrowed time. I loved you enough to let you go. Night rain taps soft on our old glass, photographs shaking in my small hands. I waited, you did not turn back. I loved you enough to let you go. Once dreamed dog, soft sleep, warm coffee. Now you chase roads with no set names. I stay here stuck to our map. Your ghost walks past each empty doorway. You said you must find yourself without me. My fault, I thought love could hold you still. I loved you enough to let you go. Quiet rooms ring loud with unasked questions. Unreturned calls sit cold in my phone. If I had spoken, would you stay? I loved you enough to let you go. Your last soft whisper cut through the light. I am not who you need, not yet. My trembling breath caught, then slipped away. Let love sometimes leaves before it dies. Wait, I would have held you longer, I swear. Too late now. The hallway keeps your name. The bed sags slow on your roadside, fading like crawls across your pillow. Our planned life hangs from the ceiling. I see it fall, piece by piece. I loved you enough to let you go. Now the dark feels wider than our years. Every what if hums low above my chest. I waited, you didn't come back home. If I had spoken, I might have stayed. I loved you enough to let you go. Lie awake, caught in the small light you left. Night rain hangs on the fire escape. City lights cut lines across my face. Quiet room holds our last words. Cold hands fold on my knees. back that night. Every echo said your name, then vanished. I was ready to stay, you weren't. Fading light on your alphabet, photographs shaking in my tired hands. My fault, I tried to steal your sky. I was ready to stay. The streets we used to claim, empty doorways, breathe out your ghost. Your soft laugh hides in my wind. I reach out, only touch air. I waited, you didn't call me back. Every passing face almost looked like you. I was ready to stay, you weren't. Trembling breath breaks in the phone's hush. You chose the road, I chose this room. Two lines bending away in slow motion. I was ready to stay, you weren't. You weren't. Said if I stop, I'll disappear. Your dreams were maps I couldn't read. Boy, love is letting the door stay unlocked. Boy, I watched your shadow slip down the stair. Quiet rooms taught me how to lose. Some hearts are born to leave early. Morning crawls through thin, forgiving blinds. Your letter rests warm in my hands. I taste the truth in each curved line. We love wrong time, not wrong soul. I was ready to stay, you weren't. Now I guard the space you left. If I had spoken, would you stay? I would have held you longer, I swear. But some stories pause between two pages. I was ready to stay. You were. I let the echoes rest and keep your light.
Night rain taps on the old glass. Cold hands wrap round the fading mug. Your cold prints still dance the couch. Quiet rooms hum with what we were. I watch the light draining from your eyes. Every pause between words grew heavier, longer. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Fading light on your leaving face. I waited, you didn't come back. My fault sits where your keys were. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Spoke of years like distant towns. You drew roots, I traced clouds. Your calm voice named each season. My trembling breath kept counting exits. You reached for a hand that kept shaking. Each unreturned call rang louder inside me. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Photographs shaking in my tired hands. I should have begged the night to stop. If I had spoken, you might have stayed. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Packed your life under the street lamp. Suitcase wheels scratched through the hallway dust. I stood still, a ghost in doorway light. Love without timing is just a wound. I would have held you longer, I swear, but forever slipped out between our silences. Now dawn spills thin across your side. Empty doorways glow like open scars. I see the man you needed there. He looks like me, just less afraid. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Night rain knows every word I withheld. I waited at windows you won't pass again. Too late to learn how to stay. I carry her almost like a quiet vow. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Maybe loving you was always goodbye. Close the door soft, leave our ghosts burning quietly. I close the door soft, leave our ghosts burning quietly. Night rain taps the thin glass slow. Lukewarm coffee, my cold hand shake. Your laugh once filled this quiet room. Now dust and silence take your place. You wanted root, I stared at fading stars. You said our future, I just watched time. I loved you enough to walk away. The photograph shaking in my tired hands. Fading light fell across your leaving face. If I had spoken, you might have stayed. I loved you enough to walk away. Small plans in narrow halls, weekend shelves, your head on my shoulder. You drew maps lips on my restless skin. I needed space but never said. You needed vows, I clung to trembling breath. You begged for now, I hid in later. I loved you enough to walk away. Your last soft pleas broke in the doorway. Empty doorways hold our unreturned calls. I waited, you didn't come back. I loved you enough to walk away. Fire escape nights, the city below side. You read my letter, hands barely steady. Short love is still real love, you whispered. Your fingers brushed me like night rain. I would've held you longer, I swear, but my fears spoke louder than my heart. Months drift by under the same night rain. Quiet rooms teach me who I am. Your ghost sits calm in every mirror. My fault blooms slow in all this space. I loved you enough to walk away. Now every street repeats your first goodbye. Fading light follows me through each day. If I had spoken, I'd have held you longer. Some loves break clean, some just fade gray. I loved you enough to walk away. I let you go and found myself too late.
Night rain taps soft on my window. Cold hands wrap round an old mug. City lights blur like our lost plans. Quiet room hums with your absence. If I had spoken when you trembled, would you have stayed or broken anyway? I loved you enough to set you free. Photographs shaking in my tired hands. Fading light on our half-drawn dreams. My fault hangs low in this dark sky. I loved you enough to set you free. Park bench paint cracked beneath our weight. Your small voice shook with hope, fear. You asked for time to find yourself. I waited. You didn't come back. If I had begged you not to wander, would you have stayed or broken slower? I loved you enough to set you free. Empty doorways watch me count missed calls. Trembling breath fogs the glass then fades. Too late to mend our split roads now. I loved you enough to set you free. Your eyes turn distant, soft as night rain. You slip like smoke
my cold hands. Love is not a cage, you whispered. By love that holds too tight stops breathing, boy. I saw the woman you longed to be, and knew my need could still break you. Now I live inside the space you left. The quiet rooms learn the shape of peace. I trace the ghost of your last smile, and bless each step that walks from me. I loved you enough to set you free. Fading light crowns the ruins of us. My fault is wanting you to stay, yet opening my palms, letting you go. Night rain now sounds like you've forgiven. I loved you enough to set you free. In losing you, I finally learned gentle love. Night rain dries on this old rooftop. City lights flicker like distant stars. Your last laugh haunts this quiet air. Cold hands clasped round my fading light. I waited here, you didn't come back tonight. If I had spoken, would you have stayed? I loved you enough to let you go. Photographs shaking in my tired hands. Empty doorways breathe with your soft ghost. Trembling breath counts every missed word. I loved you enough to let you go. Street lamps blur on the wet stone. You said love can't mend split roads. I nodded, afraid of my own name. You built a home, I chased shadows. I waited there, you didn't turn around. If I had spoken, I'd have held you longer. I loved you enough to let you go. Unreturned calls ring through quiet rooms. Night rain hides each tear on my face. My fault echoes down these dark streets. I loved you enough to let you go. You stood there soaked, shaking with truth. You whispered you could not keep waiting. I reached then froze, afraid of myself. The door closed slow, thunder in your footsteps. Boy, love isn't enough when we need ourselves. Bullshit. I'll wear that line like a secret scar. Now dawn crawls in with pale regret. The city hums but my heart stalls. Your name drifts off through my breath. Too late to choose, too late to stay. I loved you enough to let you go. Fading light spills over this bare roof. I see my shape without your shadow. Two lost souls needing different skies. I carry you still inside this silence. I loved you enough to let you go. Some stories end here, but echo forever inside. Scattered photographs on the bedroom floor. Fading light grows up a wall's floor. Your laughing face, eyes closed so sure. My cold hands trace the worn edge. You dreamed of roads where I can't follow. Waited in doorways, you slipped past. I loved you enough to let go. Night rain taps soft on the glass. My trembling breath hit a worst day. Unreturned calls hung like low clouds. I loved you enough to let go. That last fight began in quiet air. Heavy silence cracked like slow glass. You packed your bag with shaking calm. I watched afraid to speak aloud. You said you needed space to breathe. I held my tongue and lost you. I loved you enough to let go. Airport lights burned holes in the dark. Yeah, I searched mine for one plea. My fault, I chose a weak smile. I loved you enough to let go. The gate closed and my voice broke. If I had spoken, would you stay? Love is not a cage, you whispered, I heard. I can't be yours yet. The truth cut slow, almost gentle. You walked on and my world thinned. Weeks drift by in these quiet rooms. Your photograph shakes in my hand. I almost call and hear your words. You must find yourself without my shade. I loved you enough to let go. Fading light spills across your old side. I would have held you so much longer, but love bowed down to your first name. I waited, you didn't come back home. I loved you enough to let go. I loved you enough to let go. Sleep beside the space you're leaving taught me. Sleep beside the space you're leaving taught me. Cold hands on the old porch rail, fading light dyes the sky in ash. We once drew stars above this roof, now they blink their tired eyes. Your laugh is gone, but the air remembers. Every promise hangs here thin and trembling. I loved you more to let go. Photographs shaking in my slow breath. Empty doorways count the nights you're gone. I waited while your shadow passed through. I loved you more to let go. You spoke of roads past the skyline, said you'd find yourself far from here. Dreamed of roots and a small door. You dreamed of wings and open miles. Our steps fell out of time so softly. Unreturned calls echoed like closed windows. I loved you more to let go. Night rain taps where your cup once sat. Quiet rooms hold the shape of your name. You didn't come back, I stayed still. I loved you more to let go. Kitchen light hummed on your last night. You said you're not the man I need. Those words cut slow through my chest. Love is not a chain, you whispered. Fire, maybe love is knowing when to release spill. I watched you fade down the dark hall. Now I sit where our future started. My fault was thinking love could root you. If I had spoken, I'd still lose you. Some hearts are born facing the horizon. I loved you more to let go. Trembling breath fogs a cracked porch glass. Fading light folds us into two worlds. I stay with ghosts, you chase your dawn. I waited, the sky answered with silence. I loved you more to let go. In the hush of night, our broken promise sleeps.
coffee slips from my numb hands. Dawn leans in through the cracked glass. Your chair waves, dust soft on wood. Fading light crawls slow across rooms. We spoke in shards, words never quite whole. Every pause heavier than what we said. I waited for you to come back. Night rain pressed hard on our last sky. Your bags held dreams I could not touch. My trembling breath broke on your name. I waited for you to come back. You traced maps I could not read. Empty doorways framed your leaving shade. I saw home in your tired eyes. You saw roads in each dark street. You chased cracked sidewalks in far cities. I held still rooms, hoping you'd stay. I waited for you to come back. Photographs shaking in my cold hands. Heavy, almost stacked into a taller wall. You wanted motion, I wanted roots. I waited for you to come back. That soft talk unraveled like thin thread. You said I'm not ready to stay. I offered calm you never really needed. Silence filled the bed, not your body. Your ghost lay warm on my pillow. Boy, your love is not enough to anchor you. In this quiet house, I trace lost outlines. If I had spoken, would you have stayed? I would have held you longer through night rain. My fault lives small in each quiet room. I waited for you to come back. Unreturned calls ringing into heavy dark. Your path runs on, mine circles this porch. Two hearts beating down two lonely roads. I loved you more than my own forever. Waited for you to come back. I waited for you to come back.
Night rain taps on a small window. Fading light spills on the leather couch. Your fingerprints blur on the old table. Quiet rooms breathe where your voice stayed. I waited while you chased your broken pieces. You were here beside me, always far away. I loved you enough to wait. Cold hands holding one warm photograph. Trembling breath caught between your suitcases. Empty doorways ask what I should have said. I loved you enough to wait. You spoke of roads with no names, eyes on some soft distant skyline. I drew a home in your silence. You drew a map on my chest. I waited while you followed distant echoes. You were here beside me, already gone. I loved you enough to wait. Golden leaves fell around your small suitcase. Your soft smile shook like a sad truth. You said you were not that woman. I loved you enough to wait. The door clicked shut, the world thin. Photographs shaking in my cold hands. Love is not always the right time. Night rain wrote your name on the glass. I would have held you longer, I swear. If I had spoken, would you stay? Now I live with roads unfinished. Your shadow sits where the light bends. I keep our future in past tense. My fault lives in each unreturned call. I loved you enough to wait. Too late to mend our fragile timing. You search for yourself, I search for us. I learned to lose what I still cherish. I waited for you, not for myself. I loved you enough to wait. Move on slowly, leaving space where you were. City lights tremble like distant stars. Night rain waits in the heavy air. Cold hands clasp the edge of stone. Your name glows soft on my phone. I hover on your number, then retreat again. Silence rings louder than any word I send. I loved you enough to let you go. Watch your dreams rise past my reach.
Stood in dusk while you chased on, held my tongue when I should have begged. I loved you enough to let you go. Late calls fade into quiet rooms. Your bright laugh haunts these empty halls. Photographs shaking in my tired hands. I waited, you didn't come back. I hover on your name, then fade again. Every unreturned call becomes a quiet blame. I loved you enough to let you go. You moved on, I stayed in place. You saw roads without any lines. I chose fear, called it staying true. I loved you enough to let you go. Rain that night mixed with your tears. You said your heart was still running. I held you close, swallowed each promise. Boy, love is a door that won't lock me. Our paths split, no one to accuse. My fault lives in words I never spoke. Now dawn finds me on this bare roof. Fading light traded for softer mornings. I breathe alone, still half in your shadow, learning to stand where I once knelt. I loved you enough to let you go, not enough to follow your wild sky. If I had spoken, would you have stayed? I would have held you longer, I swear. Now that truth comes far too late. I loved you enough to let you go. In this quiet I release you, not us. Not us. Night rain blurs the small glass pane. Cold hands hold a cooling cup. Your chair stays still by the wall. Fading light paints dust on your ghost. Our last soft words hang in this quiet air. Half dreams, unspoken fears, all still here. I loved you enough to stay. You loved yourself enough to leave. Empty doorways echo each unreturned call. I waited, you didn't come back. I loved you enough to stay. You chase new streets and bright signs. I trace slow routes in dark ground. Your voice broke up in late calls, my fault. I said almost nothing. Our days slipped past in that
loved yourself enough to leave. Photographs shaking in my tired hands. Too late to stitch our split roads. I loved you enough to stay. I watched you drift like a torn kite. I held the string, you cut free. You said you feared small, quiet rooms. I feared the storm outside your chest. I loved you enough to stay, I whispered. You turned, I had to leave. Now each night feels like that last talk. Neon on wet streets, your trembling breath. Two hearts beating in wrong slow time. I let you go, still reaching. I loved you enough to stay. You loved yourself enough to survive. My steps fade soft through cold, empty doorways. If I had spoken, held you longer, I'd still lose you to your own sky. I loved you enough to stay. Quiet room, I practice missing you. Night rain taps on the old glass, cold hands wrapped round a dead cup. City lights blur through fading light. Quiet rooms breathe where your voice was. I waited for words that never came. And if I had spoken, would you have stayed? 'Cause I would have held you longer. Photographs shaking in my tired hands. Your unreturned calls haunt the dark. My phone sits heavy in my chest. I would have held you longer. Slow Sunday sheets, your book half closed. You trace wild maps in the margins. I plan routes in this small place. You smiled, but your eyes were gone. I waited for truth you could not name. If I had spoken, could we have changed? 'Cause I would have held you longer. Suitcase thuds echo down the hall. opposite skies. I would have held you longer. You left your scent in the doorway. Night rain hid the sound of goodbye. I taste each word I never said. I loved you enough to let you go. I fold that line into my chest, like glass under skin, soft and sharp. Now dawn leaks pale across your side. Empty doorways frame the life we missed. Your ghost sits quiet on the sill. I learned to breathe without your name. I would have held you longer. Fading light spills on your old chair. Trembling breath counts the days since you left. Some hearts beat true yet never together. I carry our almost like a scar. I would have held you longer. In the end I watched you walk free, alone. Dim room, fading light on the wall. Cold hands trace dust on the chair. Night rain taps slow on cracked glass. Your name hangs loose in the air. I waited by that empty doorway. Trembling breath held tight. If I had spoken sooner, would you have stayed? I would have held you longer. When your eyes searched roads past me, photographs shaking in my tired hands. My fault was loving you so small. I would have held you longer. You drew maps on the cheap sheets, cities where my shadow never reached. Your voice chased wide and open skies. Mine stayed stuck in this quiet room. I waited by the silent doorway, trembling breath inside. If I had spoken softer, would you have heard? I would have held you longer as your heart beat against its cage. Unreturned calls rang through the gray dawn. Too late to learn how to let go. I would have held you longer. Your last soft footsteps felt like night rain. Love is not a leash, it's a key. I learned that truth after you were gone. Now days pass slow in quiet rooms. I fold unsent words in small squares. Your ghost leans back in that old chair. I see you clearer when you're not here. I would have held you longer, but love can bind a restless soul. Fading light spills where your body once slept. My fault was praying you'd stay half whole. Night rain forgives what I can't forgive. I would have held you longer. I opened the window and let your season in.
Night rain blurs the tired street lights. Cold hands rest on the cracked window. Your name drifts through this quiet room. Photographs shaking in my slow breath. You said you needed space to lose yourself first. I nodded, my voice stayed somewhere behind. I waited, you didn't come back. Fading light on the edge of us. Empty doorways where your laugh still rings. If I had spoken, would you have stayed? I waited, didn't come back. You chased stars through strange late cities. I stayed home counting missed calls. You were sparks, I was warm ash. Our plans fell soft between good nights. You said you loved me but not yet whole. Smile like it hurt less than truth. I waited, you didn't come back. Night rain on your hair that last time. Your eyes said stay, your feet said go. If I had spoken, I would have held you longer. Waited, stood in the rain, sure and shaken. Your soft goodbye cut clean through hope. You chose the road where I can't follow. Love is not a cage, you whispered, oh. My fault was trying to be your home, while you were still learning your name. Now silence hums louder than our fights.
Quiet rooms hold what I could not say. Two stopping points drift under fading light. I learned to love you by letting go. I waited, you didn't come back. Cold hands trace ghosts on my own skin. Trembling breath counts all the almost words. If I had spoken, would we still break? If I had spoken, I would have held you longer. Waited, you didn't come back. I leave the door unlocked, but walk away first.